What is going on up here? Ah! Scooby! I got him! I got him! Get him! I got him! No, I got him! Got him! Got him!
Hello, welcome to YCFT. We're back talking about some Scooby-Doo. Now, it's been a little while since we talked about some Scooby-Doo.
It has been.
So we're taking a look at 1987's the first Scooby-Doo TV movie, Scooby-Doo Meets the Boo Brothers, which is the first in a trilogy that we have done in reverse. This is followed by Ghoul School and Reluctant Werewolf, which we have already done videos on.
Yes.
So this one is about Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy
Yes.
off on an adventure because Shaggy has inherited a plantation from his deceased Confederate uncle.
Yeah.
We know this is scattered throughout Scooby-Doo lore, like Shaggy's
Southern
Southern heritage. I think is
even Scooby.
even
like,
Scooby, yeah. But I think as
Southern
British, I
roots.
don't think it's really our place to comment on this.
I don't really know enough, to be honest, about
Yeah, we know
the American Civil War and
we know the basics.
I
We know the basics.
basics, but yeah.
We know what they were fighting over.
Yes.
So he's inherited this plantation in the south,
Yeah.
and he's going to go check it out. He is instantly met by a gorilla on the road,
Yeah, he is.
a headless horseman,
Yeah.
a wolf,
Yes.
and a creepy butler
Yes.
who informs him that there is a missing family treasure, the family jewels, and he discovers that clues have been left for Shaggy in order to find the fortune, and then
Yes.
hijinks.
And Sue.
Well, I forgot what one major important thing. The ghosts start annoying them so much that Scrappy calls for help. He literally looks up like ghost
Yeah.
exterminators and
Yeah.
and calls the Boo Brothers, who
The
are
Boo Brothers.
ghosts that hunt ghosts.
Yeah.
And they are modelled after the Three Stooges.
Ghostly Ghostbusters.
It's one of those things, as time goes on, how many kids watching it are going to even acknowledge that they are meant to be the Three
The
Stooges.
Three Stooges, yeah.
And the way they're modelled, their voices, everything.
Yeah, I do think it's kind of telling that you'd very nearly left out the Boo Brothers.
Well, I think you can almost cut them out of the film entirely.
They don't really
Yeah.
serve that much to the plot, that really.
Not
But
particularly. I am going to say I think this is the best Scrappy.
I totally agree.
He's not as annoying. He doesn't have his
I-
catchphrase in this one. But with he takes on the role of both Fred and Velma because without them, he acts as the leader and I think he pretty much solves all the clues.
Well,
so he's the smart one in it. And I
yeah,
just think he's very palatable. And I always feel like Scrappy has gotten a raw deal.
I think it's impossible not to like Scrappy in this one. I mean, he is. I've never really had much of a problem with Scrappy. It's like when you're a kid, you just kind of like it's Scrappy. Scrappy's there. It's only I think as you get a bit older the issues kind of start to arise.
Well, you noticed sorry, I was interrupting you. I get in trouble for interrupting you. But Scrappy, we recently watched The Curse of the 13th Ghost, where Scrappy is
the
actually
movie.
referenced.
Yeah.
A little
Fully.
response from Fred saying, "What's a Scrappy?"
Well, he becomes the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
You know, he's either the villain or he's just tossed aside. Like no one makes any overt references to him, and
Well, he's not
I
even on the
don't-
DVD.
don't really like that. But in Boo Brothers, I honestly think it's you can't not like him because when you say he solves every riddle, that's not an exaggeration. He literally solves every single riddle. If it wasn't for him, Scooby and Shaggy are off getting distracted by the ape. They're off getting distracted by the sheriff, by the girl that's relentlessly chasing Shaggy.
The
Like,
feud. I forgot to mention the feud.
There's a lot
the
of
feuding
stuff.
family. You know, like
But-
like that episode of the Flintstones when they go to like they're all
Yeah.
there. Like Fred or Barney inherits some sort of
yeah,
holiday home and they're feuding with their family. It's the same thing here. Shaggy's uncle's feuding with the neighbouring family, and the
Yeah.
girl, what's her name?
Sadie Mae.
Sadie Mae, falls for Shaggy, and
Yeah.
then her brother is then chasing Shaggy throughout
Yeah.
the film, trying to kill him.
The Beauregards and the Scroggins have had like a lifelong feud. But there's so many distractions that Shaggy and Scooby have that it's literally Scrappy is the only one that has his head in the game. Scrappy is the one that's getting the riddles, he's solving the clues, and when he notices that Farquaad, the butler, is trying to steal some of the jewels, it's fucking Scrappy that's like going in and taking the jewels out of his pockets. Like, you can't not like Scrappy in this.
Like smooth moves, Scrappy?
He's a driving force of story. But like I said, he's not even on the DVD
No,
for this one. And Shaggy's wearing the wrong shirt. Because this is red shirt Shaggy.
this is Red Shirt Shaggy.
So I watched this a lot as a kid. Because it was on about as often
Same.
as Ghoul School was. But I don't think I have the same attachment to it as you do.
No, I love
And I
this
think
one.
especially as I get older, there's a lot more about it that annoys me. Even though I do like it, whenever I watch it, I do enjoy it. There's just as I get older, more things annoy me.
I think that's true for me with all of the Scooby-Doo TV movies. I still love all of them, but the older I get and I rewatch them, I'm always like, oh, it's a bit too long now. Like they should have finished 10-15 minutes ago. And I think Boo Brothers is especially a little bit too long. Like I really adore the structure of this one. I love the treasure hunt kind of plot line, and I love how every riddle, leads them to a different part of the house or, like somewhere. I like how that kind of drives the plot, minus like all the other characters getting in the way. But they definitely get to a point in the movie where they get to like, I don't know, the 10th clue, and there's still more clues after that. And there's always a moment where I'm like, it could have ended here. Like this could have been easily the final clue. We go back to the house and we wrap things up. But no, we've got like another 10 minutes of them getting through the riddles and like going to Bear Cave and all of that stuff. Yeah, it's just a little bit too long. I mean, it's an hour and a half, like it's a feature-length film.
We realised when we were doing research for this one that it's the same for all the trilogies. They have a lot of padding. And that might be because it had to fit a particular runtime for a TV movie, and that's maybe why they moved to home video afterwards, so they could make the movie shorter.
Maybe. But yeah, I think that to be honest is my major gripe with it. I know that like the Boo Brothers ultimately, it's questionable how important they are to the story, but I love seeing them. Like Shriko, I think, is my favourite, the one that has like the airline pilot hat. Yeah. I love him. And they do kind of help, they get the gang out of some sticky situations.
They cause more problems than they solve.
They are a hindrance ultimately, but I do like the opening song at the beginning is totally incorrect when you've got the witch singing about how petrifying the Boo Brothers are and how she wishes that they're like the one kind of ghoul that she hopes she never sees. It's like they are not scary in any way whatsoever. They're built up to be like this big menace, and it's the Boo Brothers.
One thing I really enjoy, the aesthetic of the film is really nice. They say this, the southernness, there's almost like a gothic nature to it.
Absolutely, the southern
just
plantation.
the design of the backgrounds and some of the ghouls is really cool. But at the same time, there's a production problem so our lead ghost. So we have a ghost of Shaggy's uncle that we see. The Colonel. But also then we have like a skeleton ghost.
Yes.
Who would you say he is the main bad?
Yeah, he appears more.
His costume goes from being a really nicely detailed skeleton that you can see through to later on in the film where it's kind of like looks like a black costume with like it drawn on. It's like we know it's meant to be a costume, but having it go from looking like an actual skeleton to looking like a skeleton costume later on, it felt lazy.
Yeah.
Like they were running out of money.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do also think, though, that transition happens after when the ghost falls down a trapdoor. And Scrappy and Shaggy, I think, are immediately like, how can a ghost fall down a trapdoor?
Why does a ghost need a trapdoor?
Why does a ghost even need one? And it's like, well, so I think it's after that, when it's in the audience's mind, like, oh, this isn't clearly not a real ghost, that they kind of get a bit looser with the costume. Like, they don't go into the details as much.
But it kind of makes me think, why go for a skeleton then?
Yeah,
and why not just make the Colonel be the main ghost?
True. I mean, I think he's a really good, like, looking ghost. Don't mean that in that way. I mean it in the sense like he's effectively spooky. Yeah,
in fact, he's swinging a sword around. I mean, he feels like more of a threat.
Yeah.
Another problem I kind of have is the film doesn't really give you that many options as to who the ghost can be. Well, it tries to, but at no point did I think. Look, this film's like from the 80s, so we're going to spoil the hell of it.
Well, yeah.
At no point did I think it was the feuding family.
You don't think it was Billy Bob Scroggins? Yeah,
no,
Billy Bob.
The butler was too obvious.
I was going to say Billy Bob Thornton. It's
not going to be the gorilla. The only twist could be that the gorilla might have been a costume, but I enjoy the gorilla whenever he appears, but there's no... He is actually an escaped gorilla.
Yeah.
And there's no resolution to his story at the end. He's just still an escaped gorilla at the end.
Yeah, that's true.
So the big twist is that it's the sheriff that's been warning them off the entire time. Oh, he's not actually the sheriff. He's the sheriff's twin brother, and he's been disguised as all the ghosts for the whole thing. It's like, well, of course it is, because that's the only other character we've seen where it could feasibly be him. If it was the butler, it's just too obvious.
And
I know this is Scooby-Doo, but I don't like having been able to work things out as easily.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, in terms
I was thinking he was a bit weak.
Yeah, so we've got the sheriff, we've got Sadie Mae, we've got Billy Bob, we've got Farquaad. I think
the bear at one point.
The bear. But like in terms of the humans, they're the only other 4 characters, and I guess even when you look at the skeleton, it's clearly like quite a short person in the costume, and obviously like the sheriff is not a tall guy, so yeah, it is pretty obvious. Like, but even then, it's not the sheriff; it's his twin brother who's always been aware of the jewels.
He has a history of dressing up as ghosts and scaring people.
Apparently, yeah, conveniently, yeah. I mean, okay, I'll give you that but it is still a man in a mask.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and that is because there's a whole thing with Scooby-Doo that we've addressed in that. The TV films, or the animated features, they always they're a bit darker in tone because they go with this idea that the supernatural is real, and Zombie Island, which is Ghost and all of them, like the big bad is a supernatural entity. And even in Reluctant Werewolf and in Ghoul School, like the supernatural are just interacting with Shaggy and Scooby like every day, like they're there, the monsters are real, the ghosts are real. Boo Brothers is slightly different as the first one, where obviously we've got the Boo Brothers, but like in terms of who the villain is, it is a man in a mask at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's they change the format a little bit, I think.
I think the important thing is, without Fred, Daphne or Velma being there, they're the ones that don't believe in ghosts.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for them not to be around when the real ghost stuff happens, especially in the early days.
Yeah.
And as I said, I do enjoy some. It goes on for too long. Like when Shaggy's being stalked by, I've forgotten her name already.
Sadie Mae.
Sadie Mae.
Mae.
She is just
looking at him.
She is absolutely obsessed with him. And it's like, Shaggy, she would tear you in half.
Fucking hell.
She's after him she's infatuated so quickly. She's literally chasing him down for the entire movie.
And I intend to marry him, or whatever it is she says.
It's like, the only thing I can assume is not. Well, we've seen through various films, Shaggy has no trouble getting women. But also,
really
there's clearly not a ton of men in this area.
That isn't her brother.
That isn't her brother, yes.
Yeah.
But that scene where, it's a picture of her sneaking up on Shaggy, and then her brother comes up, pulls her out of the way, then he's going to go shoot her, then she pops up. That goes on. While Shaggy's just doing this little monologue, but it's like an unnaturally long monologue about not being scared, and
yeah,
it goes on just for far too long. That's definitely let's pad this out. We're going to keep you, because they're always in the same poses, just reusing the animations over and over again.
Yeah. I feel that same way about the treasure hunt. Like, it just goes on a little bit too long. The film easily could have been shaven off by 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I think. Because
usually the straight DVD ones clock in at about 70 minutes rather than 90, which is much more palatable.
All these TV Scooby-Doo films are feature film length. They're over. This one is 92 minutes. It's over an hour and a half, which is not necessary. It didn't need to be over an hour and a half. But you said earlier that a big thing that you like is the aesthetic of this one, and I absolutely agree. I love it. I love the inside of the mansion. It's the classic Gothic house. It's very creepy. It's very run down. It's obviously been quite neglected.
What do they call it? Americana.
Yeah, it's images of old Americana. Obviously, it's a southern plantation, so even the outside it has a very specific look to it, and the bayous and the graveyards outside, it's all very specific to this area of America.
It's really haunted mansion-y.
It is quite haunted mansion-y. The Civil War kind of iconography pops up a lot in Scooby-Doo. I mean, it's obviously a lot in Boo Brothers because of the Colonel and whatnot, but it's kind of a thing that does pop up a lot. And it's Scooby-Doo, a lot of the movies, the animated ones, they do kind of have this fixation with American history.
Yeah.
You know, like it's the past is always kind of intermingled in some way. Like Zombie Island, you know, again we're back with another plantation, and I think we're in Louisiana in that one. In Witch's Ghost, it's, you know, like Puritanism and the witch trials, like that's a big part of it. And yeah, Boo Brothers, Confederacy, we've got images of the Headless Horseman, which is really cool, like evoking images of, you know, Washington Irving. Like it's all very American, like very American history, which I do really like. But there is a bit of a like the timeline doesn't quite work out with the Colonel, right? Because
no, he's too old.
He's dressed as a Confederate soldier, he's a colonel, but he's only recently just passed away, which is why Shaggy's inherited the mansion. So like if he was a colonel in the Civil War, he'd literally have to be like 150 years old at the time of his death.
There's a figure that Scooby-Doo's perpetually in the 60s.
Yeah.
At least in those early days. That still would have made him
over 100.
Live longer than the last known Confederate soldier to die.
It doesn't quite add up.
In my mind, he's just wearing a Confederate outfit and calling himself the Colonel. I think maybe just
that makes sense.
That's fair. He was clearly if he's feuding with neighbours, he wanted to go to war with somebody.
Yeah.
In my mind, to make it work, he's just a madman pretending to be a colonel.
Pretending to be like his.
Because who's there really to legitimise and confirm that he is a Confederate soldier?
That's true. I think it's like.
I mean, obviously the tunnels underneath that has the flag. It's confirmed there's Confederacy stuff here.
Yeah. We just need to, I think that makes more sense. Like, he's inherited the outfit from maybe, like, his father or his grandfather or something, and he's just, like, wanting to be a part of it by putting on the costume. Yeah, that's the only thing that does make sense. But I love the aesthetic of this. It's just, like, classic haunted house Scooby-Doo vibes. Like, when I think of Scooby-Doo, like, the classic haunted mansion, I kind of think the painted backgrounds are just amazing. Like, we've spoken in one of the videos but there's an Instagram account we both follow, and they just are devoted to, like, picking out painted backgrounds from Scooby-Doo, like the classic Scooby-Doo show, and it's brilliant. Yeah, I have such a soft spot for this movie. I mean, it is, the older I get, it does drag, and I do think it is a bit too long, but I like it. I think the biggest thing for me is the treasure hunt, as well as the production design and the aesthetic. I actually quite like the clues, and I always forget them until I return to it, and then I like trying to figure out, you know, like the riddles and stuff.
Yeah, the treasure hunt element, it's quite a unique thing for Scooby-Doo, and I quite enjoy it. Even like I said, the Boo Brothers aren't a massive part of it, but I do enjoy it when they are there. I think they're a ton of fun. I also kind of like the ending. I know it's often been furious because at the end he gives the Boo Brothers the plantation, so it's their home to haunt because they don't have one.
They're orphan
and
ghosts.
He gives the whole fortune away to orphans.
You Boo Brothers were such a big help that we're leaving you guys this whole house.
Yeah, to haunt for as long as you like. Wow, that's great. But where are you guys going?
Like we're splitting for home.
But what are you gonna do with all your diamonds? They're going to the Beauregard Trust Fund for orphans. Gee, that's sweet. Goodbye!
Potentially, resolving some family issues by giving back.
Yeah.
Potentially make himself feel better. But then it's that way, like, the butler just seems fine with it. He must have paid the butler off.
I think he must, because Shaggy even says, doesn't he, like when Scrappy tries to take the jewels, Farquaad is perpetually stealing some of the jewels, like throughout the whole film, and Scrappy's really not happy about it.
Have a jewel with him.
Yeah, and Scrappy really is not happy about it, and Shaggy keeps saying, like, oh, you know, like, don't worry, just let him take, like, the odd diamond or the odd pearl, because we're going after the full whack. So if, like, we lose the odd ruby along the way, it's fine.
Yeah.
So Shaggy doesn't really seem to care that Farquaad is just stealing some of...
Well, Shaggy's not materialistic, but at the same time, through these 3 movies, Shaggy has a different car in every movie.
He does have a different car. He's a bit of a car head.
He is.
Kind of proven to be.
But it's like, I kind of like that. So we have the shady history potentially of Shaggy's family, but then he does good with that fortune at the end. Doesn't keep it, like, helps orphans.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, obviously, like, the Confederacy thing is a part of it, and it's kind of, you know, like, the character's southern roots are ingrained, like, within the show and within different films. it's always been there, but they don't go hard on it.
No, it also doesn't affect you.
It's not trying to make a point either way.
Yeah, and Shaggy is just Shaggy.
Yeah.
Shaggy's always he's just a good person.
But I do like that there's a thing, isn't there, about like a theory that exists that one of the reasons that Shaggy is perpetually scared is because he's trying to run away from the guilt of his past. Like that's maybe looking a bit too deep into
probably
Scooby-Doo,
because again, like the timeline wise doesn't make sense because Shaggy, again, 100 years after.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
You can't help who your ancestors were at the same time.
We can see that they might have drawn from, like some inspiration from like locations and historical figures.
Definitely.
But ultimately, this is a kids' show, and it's not going to go deep with it. And I wouldn't like it if they ever did go that deep with it.
No, I really enjoy the imagery and the iconography of like bringing different periods of American history into the show. I really do like that. I love it in the films too. But I think that's as deep as we need to go with it.
Yeah, I really like Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy in this one. I think they all bounce off each other really well.
Yeah.
Even like occasion when the gorilla jumps in, like did you forget there's a gorilla in this?
There's a gorilla in this.
Like, he's always a nice bit of comedic relief.
Yeah, I think like the gorilla is kind of just a plot device to keep the sheriff around because he's always like the guy's always on the what should we call it in like
the radio.
The radio, yeah, thank you. He's like, oh, have you got that ape yet? And the sheriff's like, no, I'm trying to catch him. But in hindsight, they didn't even really need the ape to keep the sheriff around because Billy Bob is just off shooting his gun. And he actually does attack the sheriff, like he shoots out the car at one point. So the sheriff could have just stuck around
for that.
We didn't need the addition of the ape necessarily. But I do kind of like the ape. Even though, bless him, it's he doesn't get any kind of... There's no resolve.
No, he's just free. So
he's just kind of there.
Do you have any more notes on this one?
I don't really think I do. Other than I adore this one. I love it so much. I used to watch it all the time. But I can admit that it is maybe a little bit too long. But one thing it absolutely does have going for it is I think it is the best Scrappy.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think we said this in my Girl School one, to be honest. Maybe it is time for Scrappy to make a proper return.
Yeah, but as like as an actual character.
Yeah.
Not as the butt of a joke, and not as the villain.
But it's like,
just bring Scrappy back.
Yeah, because Scrappy was an important part of my childhood because I was a child when I was seeing all these ones. I have a lot. We've been rewatching the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, and I've been really enjoying Scrappy in that.
Yeah, I've been enjoying that.
I don't think I was ever as annoyed by Scrappy as a lot of people are. Ultimately, I don't think a lot of our generation were because we were kids.
We were kids, like this, we grew up.
And ultimately, like he's an important part of this story, and I think at the very least, he should be on the cover of the DVD.
I would also just like to bring more of Scooby's family back.
Yeah. Oh, Scoop. No, he's not on the back either.
He's not on any of the marketing, which is such a shame. Like.
It's the same with this touch. Yeah, what was it? Scooby-Dum, Scooby-Dee.
Yeah, but there's more of them as well. Dee and Dum are the two that I know.
Yeah.
I'm really familiar with. But I would love to see more of them. Like, they've kind of taken a bit of a backseat.
Yeah.
Too in recent years. But they were always really fun.
I feel like this one we've talked more about the themes and history of Scooby-Doo than the actual movie. It is still a fun movie, and these movies especially are really good gateways for kids.
Oh, of course.
Like we have well and truly left the demographic of these movies, and I'm very aware of that when we watch the newer ones.
The length and the runtime is very apparent.
That's what I'd say. Even with the newer films, I'm very much aware they are not demographic, but they've moving away into the newer trilogy. It's quite strange because they're all sequels to ones that came out, like Return to Zombie Island. The Curse of the 13th Ghost. That threw us off because I remembered watching that, but it's been a very, very long time since I watched it. So they're now doing sequels to stuff where the current generation of kids are too young to have potentially
seen the originals. Yeah.
So I'm very curious, and I think it does pave the way for a Scrappy return.
Maybe.
And maybe to do a sequel to one of either Boo Brothers, Ghoul School, or Reluctant Werewolf. Yeah, if they are going to keep going back and doing sequels to them, that might be a lot of fun.
I think out of all of them, Ghoul School is the one that's maybe more likely to get a bit of attention.
Yeah, but I would always love a sequel to Reluctant Werewolf.
Same, but it surprised me to learn that Reluctant Werewolf out of the three is the least popular.
Yeah, well, I think Ghoul School's the most popular, isn't it?
Ghoul School, then Boo Brothers, and
like
then Reluctant
the Grimwood Girls. I think they're ripe for a comeback.
Oh yeah,
they are prime for a comeback.
They are.
And it's really surprising that they didn't. I can't imagine them ever doing a sequel to Boo Brothers.
I can't imagine
to be
they
honest,
would either.
because I don't know where they go with it unless the Boo Brothers needed help.
Yeah, and they've never appeared in like any other little. As far as I'm aware, I don't think they've ever popped up again.
Yeah.
In Scooby-Doo.
Also, can Shaggy's red shirt reappear?
We love Shaggy's red shirt.
I love Shaggy's red shirt.
Yeah, we do.
I would even love a pop vinyl if they do like a Shaggy in his red shirt.
Yeah.
Or a Reluctant Werewolf one. Well, thanks for stopping by, guys. Like we are going down memory lane with us.
Boo Brothers.
Where do you stand on Scrappy?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as usual, we now have a long list of Scooby-Doo recommendations from the credits. We have seen them all, and we will work our way through them. But again, I'm going to open up the table to old Scooby-Doo TV series. Like I said, we're working our way through the 13 Ghosts at the moment. Is there any other like specials, little TV series you think might be interesting to check out?
Yeah.
And thanks.
We love our Scooby-Doo.
We do love our Scooby-Doo, and it's been too long since we've done one. And I feel like I've been putting it off for a long time, but Monsters Unleashed might have to be one of the ones coming up.
I don't dislike Monsters Unleashed.
I don't hate it. In fact, there's some stuff that I really enjoy in it.
Yeah.
But overall, I know it's not a good movie.
Yeah.
It's better than The Mystery Begins, though.
Yeah.
You've not seen that one, have you?
I have not seen that, but I can imagine it's miles better.
It's what, Mystery Begins? No, it's miles worse.
Miles better. No, sorry. Unleashed is miles better than
Yeah.
Begins.
Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next week.